pause, that was the word they used, pause any more smart motorways for 5 years while they do what they call a safety check. I can tell, yeah, and many of people have raised this. We're going to speak to one Rotherham campaigner, widow, in a moment. Let me just tell you that between 2014 and 2019, 38 people were killed on smart motorways. And so they're having a look at that. Now, for this woman in Rotherham, she is determined to return the hard shoulder to our motorways. Now, Claire's husband, this is Claire Mercer, her husband Jason was killed on a stretch of smart motorway near Sheffield. This was in 2019. Jason and another driver stopped in a live lane of an all-lane running motorway after a minor collision, and then they were hit by a lorry. Well, Claire Mercer now campaigns to get the hard shoulder reinstated and has a legal challenge to stop smart motorways. And I'm really very grateful you're with us. Claire, how are you?
I'm okay, thank you. Are you?
I'm all right, thank you. I'm so sorry for your loss. And I cannot imagine what your life has been like since 2019.
No, thank you. It's been exhausting, and I shouldn't have been put through this on top of an unnecessary loss as well.
Yes, and this is something you are fighting for at every stage to make sure the hard shoulders are reinstated. So when you heard this week the government going to suspend any new ones for 5 years, or what was the word they used, pause them, what was your reaction to that? How did you feel about that?
Disappointment, because there's so much small print. The announcement is worthless, and they could have done something that was much, much easier and 100 times more effective by just switching off the first lane, at least just while they investigate it. It must be the 25th investigation into smart motorway safety since I've just been campaigning in just 2.5 years. We've had every imaginable body, select committee, group, ombudsman, just everybody doing their own investigation into smart motorways 15 years after they first came in broad sweeps. And they're investigating them now after they're already in and killing people. And then, like I said, there's so much small print in that announcement that when you actually look into it, they're going to pause the rollout of a few that it is convenient for them to pause. There's more than twice the amount that they're pausing still going ahead. And the pause actually only amounts to 3 years, not 5, because they're saying that they've already got 2 years worth of data.
In your view, why is that? Because you have looked at the evidence. We know the number of deaths up to 2019, including Jason. There's enough evidence. So why do you believe that the government are saying, don't worry, Mr. Mannering, we'll just take a longer look? Why is that? Is it because they've invested so much in them?
I think so, yes. And when you look more into that, what it is the private contracts going out to the big private construction firms. They must be under enormous pressure from these private construction firms, because these contracts are worth hundreds of millions for just a stretch. And of course, they're going to convert the entire country's motorway network into these. So just 10 junctions is a £100 million contract. And there's all these private companies bidding and bidding and bidding for them. So, they must be under enormous pressure from these private countries to not give in, to not buckle down to the pressure, because then these private companies then support them. They donate to this party or that party, or they help with this election process. It's basically, it's legalized backhanders. That's why they're not giving in.
Wow, that's quite an allegation. You are prepared to take this to the courts, aren't you?
I am. I've been battling to get it into court for 2 years now. It was one of the first things that I started. I thought, I am not waiving petitions. I'm not saying, please see sense. I'm just going to start with the black and white and just get this banned. But we thought initially it would take 6 months to get into the High Court, but COVID had other ideas and completely derailed our timeline. In which time Highways England had enough time to get their own legal advice, and they've just been completely refusing to engage with us, just not acknowledging us at all. But unfortunately for them, when the Select Committee announced this latest review, they have to respond to a Select Committee. So now they've responded to them. it's catapulted us back into action again. And I've spoken more to Owen Mitchell this week than I have in the last 6 months, and they're telling me they're getting dates, they're getting paperwork, they're getting this, they're getting that, and it's catapulted the legal challenge back into action.
What would you like to achieve and how quickly?
It could be done. It could be done in a minute. Flick the switch over the first lane. Just tell yourself it's a temporary measure if they want to save face, but they could just flick the switch over the first lane, and we've got our hard shoulder back. And that is the only thing that I will accept: the hard shoulder back on every single motorway.
When it comes to dealing with grief, has this helped at all? The anger, the injustice, the shock of it, having a cause in Jason's name, is it helping?
80%, I would say yes, because basically I've deflected. I haven't grieved properly. If you'd told me while he was still alive that I wasn't going to have that man, I wouldn't have been able to cope. But so I've deflected, and it got me out of bed. And it got me on medication, and it's got me off the medication as well, because I had a complete nervous breakdown. But then there's the 20% of it that you haven't grieved properly, for someone that was your other half, your soulmate, and you've not grieved properly. So when I win this campaign, I think an awful lot of grief is going to hit me like a wrecking ball.
I'm so glad to talk to you. Let's catch up when things start to really move for you. And thank you for talking to us. And well done, girl. Well done.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Claire Mercer from Rotherham, whose husband Jason was killed on a stretch of the smart motorway near Sheffield in